Hmm. Oh, hey, just 1 second. I'm trying to decide whether I should bring my DSLR or my smartphone for my next photo walk. What's up, YouTubers? This is Kay again. Have you talked to anybody who think the smartphone will be able to replace DSLR or slash mirrorless? I'll call it digital cameras. Yeah, do you think smartphone will be able to replace digital cameras completely? What do you think? Let's start this with comparing these two. So, digital camera, smartphone. When I mean digital camera, I'm talking about like lens interchangeable cameras or compact cameras, like something that people use other than their smartphone. So, other than the convenience factor, there's also one obvious thing that people don't seem to really realize. How big is smartphone? How big is digital camera? And what parts in the camera makes the photograph? It's the camera sensor. And obviously, digital cameras have bigger camera sensor than a smartphone. You know how small those smartphones are these days, how thin they are, how slim, like good looking they are? Yeah. So usually for the point and shoot cameras, they use some kind of sensor like about up to 1 inch sensor and or something a little bit smaller than that. Your smartphone cameras generally use about 1 over 1.7 inch sensor for really high-end kind of camera phone like Huawei P30 Pro, something like that. And the phones like Galaxy S20 Ultra, the name's really hard to say by the way, has a sensor size of 1 over 1.33 inches, which is the biggest sensor of all. But if you compare that sensor to my professional digital cameras, like this sensor is huge. This sensor is really huge. Look at the chart. Look at the chart and compare the size of the sensor. Isn't it pretty obvious that there's a huge different sensor? But why does the sensor matter so much? I'll cover it in a second. And one feature people kind of forget about, maybe not a feature, the one part that people kind of forget about is the lenses. So smartphone has like lenses, like my phone has two lenses. I think it's one's wide, one's regular. And I have this big lens that I use on my camera. Why does the lens matter? Why am I even showing you this big glass compared to the smartphone? You know, the optical science is like pretty simple. The bigger the glass, bigger the sensor, the better image quality you're going to get. Because if the lens is bigger or the glass is bigger, you are going to be able to collect more light in the same amount of time, which directly connects to the better quality image. Let's put it this way. If you have a more ingredients for cooking, I think you're gonna get a more interesting slash better end result or food at the end, right? Then what about portability? Honestly, I don't think that I can really talk much about this thing. Obviously, this camera and my phone. Yeah, I think you get what I mean. This has like great portability, great functionality. It's already in your pocket or in your purse like every time you go outside, right? So what do you think about those categories? Like, do you agree with what I just said? Or do you have a different thought? If you have some different thoughts or idea, please leave a comment. I'd like to talk to you. We can discuss. Then what about me as a professional photographer, what do I think of the quality of the smartphone photos, even compared to regular digital cameras? When it comes to my work for my clients, first is quality, second is quality, third is quality. And personally, I don't think the smartphone can offer the quality I look for. They are great for your daily kind of like uses for taking snaps at landscape photos while you're on a hike or something. But the type of work I do, I don't think that smartphones are there to offer the quality. And also, as I mentioned before, different lens choices that gives me a bunch of freedom to produce work with all the optical features like bokeh, depth of field, all sorts of things. It's a kind of a hassle to change the lens around, carry more bags for lenses and lights and everything, but at the same time, it gives the quality that I want. And so, smartphone to me is like I don't need to consider to use for my work. Let's organize what we just talked about here. So, smartphone pros. Portability. I mean, obviously, it's the smallest device that everybody already has and has a great camera, right? And decent image quality with really great internal processing. You know, when you think about all the filter, all those like face recognition, or even those like live focus function that blurs the backgrounds like automatically, it's all great. They're pretty like usable. You can't really tell much difference if you compare them by side. And access to the internet, that's always pros. Your smartphone has data, then you can upload your photos anytime. You know what? That's a great pros. Great feature. What about cons? So limited lens choice, as I mentioned earlier, it doesn't really apply to many people in their daily use. But at the same time, smartphone has limited lens options. So I took the points off. And limited control. I know that some of the smartphone has raw file recording or pro mode they call it, change shutter speed, ISO, and those kind of settings. But at the same time, they're not fully like functioning. They kind of simulate the look, depends on how you change the settings, but it can't really change shutter speed too much, or it can't really change aperture. It can change ISO, which is easy to do, but there's a lot of limits in there. What about for the digital camera? Let's talk about the pros first. Ultimate image quality. Yeah, I mean, that's what I use this big, chunky camera for my job, right? To get the best image quality possible. And freedom of expression using its optical features, like making background super blurry without any post-processing involved, or making really shallow depth of field, creating like surreal image. Those are all the optical features you can achieve through using good lens on a digital camera. And looks professional. Nah, I'm just kidding. What about cons for digital camera? Obviously, the size and the weight. It's pretty heavy. And after a full day of shooting wedding or my commercial stuff, my wrist is pretty in pain. Yeah. And the cost. Smartphone became like one essential thing that people don't really consider this as the kind of cost in your regular equipment. But digital camera is different. They're not cheap and you have to buy on top of your smartphone. Your smartphone will work as your phone and a camera at the same time, but your camera won't be able to perform as a smartphone or just even a phone or, buzzer.
Wow!
And last thing, you need a computer or a tablet to process the image to achieve the best look out of what they offer. I think this is one reason why a lot of people have been using their smartphone because it's just easy, less time to process, You take a photo, upload it right away. But for digital cameras, you can't do that, right? So where are we after all those things I just listed up there? Like personally, I don't think that smartphone cameras are there to replace the digital cameras completely. However, it already replaced the market like mostly, and the functions they offer is pretty amazing. So if you're a regular person who's taking photos and video of your daily life, and even some level of like a professional looking videos, you can actually achieve that through using smartphone. It's amazing. So I was looking at some of the stats from the CIPA, which is like one of the credible kind of camera like related resource. So since 2012, camera sales been decreasing like rapidly. There was a time that DSLR camera was a thing that everybody used to carry one out. Now it's different. People like to carry their smartphone, smaller, better looking, multifunctioning smartphones, and they don't want to bring this bulky camera outside with them. Especially the point and shoot camera market has collapsed really heavily. It basically doesn't exist anymore. And even the interchangeable lens camera market, so like DSLR or mirrorless, it's been shrunk by quite a bit. And I think it will shrink even more as time goes and as the smartphone cameras is getting better and better. I mean, look at those cameras from Galaxy S20 Ultra. 108 megapixel camera sensor in your smartphone? Holy, that's a lot. Only market that this thing doesn't apply is the professional camera market. Like for example, media companies or some kind of YouTube creators or professional commercial photographers where quality matters. I don't think that smartphone will ever be able to replace that market. As I said, because quality matters, smartphone is not there to offer the quality yet. And one other idea why I don't think that smartphone will be able to replace the camera market is because each camera and a lens is known to have its own character. Like the color science from each company in their sensor kind of like programming or layout, or how their optical design is done in their lenses. The characteristics that lens manufacturer trying to imply into their product. I don't think that those are the features that smartphone is going to be able to achieve. It's a little bit different from applying filters on Instagram or Facebook. I would say it's a little bit beyond that. It's a little bit deeper, and it really comes to someone's preference. To me personally, I have like my favorite lens, I have my favorite camera, I have my favorite camera model with the special sensor that creates a little bit different look than the other cameras on the market that I like. So, what do you think? Do you agree or disagree with what I said? Thanks for watching. If you have any questions or thoughts, please leave a comment. And I hope to see you soon. Bye bye.